And that way, if there's no attendees that show up, which I'm not quite sure why there wouldn't be because we had over 100, we'll have it available. So, alrighty.
Cool.
Any questions, comments, concerns, conundrums before we get started?
I'm good.
Alrighty, here we go. Welcome to the podcast or the webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us. With me today to talk about kind of creating content and creating a value for not only your business, but also for your customers. First and foremost, I got to know these guys over the course of the last couple of months. First and foremost, Mr. Byron Baird from SAVI. Welcome, sir.
Hello, all. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And also Derek Wilson. Derek, if you attended the virtual SAVI event, you saw Byron, but you also saw Derek running around the virtual trade show and showing you all the cool tips and tricks. So welcome, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
And last but not least, young man I got to meet this week, Craig Rathman. Craig is from LG and probably one of the biggest cheerleaders outside of SAVI that SAVI has. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
We pay him well for all that cheerleading, by the way.
Yeah,
yes.
And the best backdrop ever.
He does have a really cool backdrop. That is
I
absolutely
gotta clean that up.
No, man, go with it.
No, don't mess with it because it almost has a shed, you know, a he said she said kind of thing going on there.
I am in Georgia.
Although there you go, that makes sense.
So
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to differentiate your business, right? And building value with your customers. Honestly, obviously we're talking with the guys at SAVI, and we'll bring Craig in on some of this stuff. But first and foremost, one of the things that you guys, Byron, that we talked about a couple of weeks ago was the experience that you had and your dealer had walking Topgolf through their initial kind of setup and everything. So why don't you, for those that weren't able to see that, talk about some of the problems and some of the pain points that we were trying to solve with, or you were trying to solve with Topgolf.
Sure. So the story starts about 9 years ago. And at that point in time, we were on the integration side of things, and we had sort of a charge from Topgolf to bring value in terms of the experience that they and their staff members would have to control a lot of TVs or displays, as we now know that we would call them in the commercial space, right? Control a lot of those displays, video endpoints, as well as a lot of audio zones and various types of lighting in a really efficient, easy to access and easy to manage sort of way. And so the first attempt we made at that in bringing together a system design, it just didn't quite hit the mark, right? So we kind of went back to the drawing board and we wrote version 1 of SAVI way back in the day. And even that older version, which looks a bit primitive compared to SAVI 3, albeit,
Sure.
It actually solved that issue, and that aspect of what they were trying to do is manage a lot of audio, visual, and lighting in a very efficient way, and potentially even to be able to do it from a BYOD device. And Derek can talk more about some of those experiences because he was kind of more in the real deep tech part of it, but that was kind of the high level. They wanted to bring the experience to the customer, but then have their back of house staff and their bay hosts or hostesses be able to control it very easily along with their other staff members.
No, so Derek, walk me through that, right? One of the aspects of this is not just, you know, having the ability to take over, and we're going to talk about some of the digital signage aspects of this, but it is really kind of what Byron was saying is the ease of use and the BYOD connectivity, but also making sure that there's a consistent experience regardless of which one you went to.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And really, we just removed complexity on the front end and the back end. And it allows people to be trained up very quickly. You know, Topgolf alone has thousands of employees. I think they have about 800 on staff at each location. So there is a lot of people utilizing SAVI. And, you know, how we can't host training sessions all the time because, you know, that's just a lot for a lot of different people, a lot of different shift changes, so much going on and a lot of movement. So, you know, that's why we kind of just started off just a clean slate, just wiped the chessboard, and then just completely redesigned it to where we don't have to focus on training people these different types of interfaces. We wanted the consistency. That way, you can show, I'm not even kidding. We just show just a few people at Topgolf, and then it just grows throughout everybody that works at the venue. So it just makes it really easy for people to comprehend, especially when there's new staff coming and going on a monthly basis.
Well, and not only that, but the whole point of this conversation today is talking about bringing value, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the values, and when we talked with the folks at Topgolf, and you guys can kind of talk to this for a second, is not only do they have a lot of employees, but those employees, because of the ease of use and the ease of training, they can be transportable. They can go to various locations. I'm in St. Louis. We only have one, right? But Craig is in Atlanta, and there are 2 or 3 locations there. Depending so depending on where you are in the country, the Topgolf employees can go from one location to another. Talk about for a second what that does from honestly a cost standpoint, but also the ability to take those employees and not have to retrain them every time they go to a new location.
Oh yeah.
Derek,
and
yes,
that's actually,
yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about keeping the interface so consistent, because you can go from one location, like Craig, they have 2 locations in their areas, and those employees transfer all the time. So when you go to the next location to the next, you just pick up the UI and it's the exact same thing as your other ones. So there's no retraining on how to use it. It's almost like today using Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting. When you try and get someone else to use a different an interface, you might not know how to turn on your mic. You might not know how to turn on your camera. It gets you all out of whack, and it delays a lot of things. Well, keeping it consistent, you just wipe all that away. So when you go to the next venue or venue to venue or next location, you can just pick up Savvy and immediately know how to use it. It's the same thing every single location. Yeah. And with that many employees running around, it really saves on time and efficiency on just training and learning from venue to venue.
Well, let's not be coy here. It also costs money to train your employees too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because depending on where you are, you're paying them in hourly or their salary rate to make sure that they are up to date. Craig, I want to bring you in on this and kind of walk me through the buyer's journey from LG's point of view. And one of the things that makes Savvy interesting is the fact that some of the software leverages a lot of LG's web OS, and we're going to get into that when we start talking about the digital signage. But when you're from your standpoint, walk me through kind of the buyer's journey when you're talking with in this case Topgolf.
Sure. So I'm gonna take one moment to do a little backtrack on you, Tim, just because what Derek was talking about, I really value, and that is this whole transferable platform across multiple locations, right? For all the resellers on this call, for all the LG salespeople out there, there's over 50 Topgolf locations. It's such an amazing asset for us to have to go in and demonstrate Savvy and WebOS in one location. And if you think about my world of digital signage, it is so rare that we win something that's publicly accessible. There's a lot of great signage demonstrations in Disneyland or in corporate campuses, behind the walls of Coca-Cola and IBM, right? But I can't ever bring you in to show you that. Topgolf is a public venue, open 365 days a year, and it is such an incredible resource for us to go into. So even the resellers on this call that that didn't sell Topgolf, that Savvy platform is still available for them to show off. They can talk about the strengths. They can walk around the property and show all the different channels that are being controlled. So it's an amazing resource for us as a selling community as well. And I'm going to take that now to the journey conversation you had, because this footprint has made that journey so much easier than it ever was in the past. And the reason being is access. I mean, I will regularly entertain a new client at a Topgolf, and the coup de grace is when I don't even talk about the platform. They think they're going for lunch and to hit some golf balls. And then when we turn it to the business, I said, well, just take a look at what's around you. And it's a great slam dunk because we're able to say all of this is running on the SAVI control network with LG WebOS displays. And then I start articulating, look at all the different channels, look at the tri-pane, all the technical wonder that's going on in it, and that property has new meaning in the sale.
Oh yeah. And it's great too, because Craig will call us up, be like, hey, I'm going to walk somebody over to here. Would you mind just popping up this ad on the displays real quick? And I'm like, give me 30 seconds. It's just that fast. And I'm remote from Dallas. So
it floors people.
It's great.
Derek, I want you to repeat that because I don't want that to go kind of, over people's head to just kind of a throwaway thing. You're in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And Craig calls you up regardless of where he is, whichever Topgolf he's at. And you're in Dallas and you can remote in and change an ad, right?
Oh yeah.
Talk about that remote support capability when it comes to giving the client, regardless of who the client is, giving them that comfort that regardless of where your integrator happens to be at that moment, they can still support you and they can still, bring a level of support and connectivity, but not just that, but also fix problems remotely, regardless of where they are.
Oh yeah. And actually that was most of our focus with Creator and our back end is about support. Actually most of what drives us is about support. So, we have access to all of the SAVI systems out there. All of our main installers have access to that. And it really helps drive the business along because, we're in a world of technology. So there's going to be problems here and there and special features like what we do with Craig all the time. And it's just so fast that we can just log into a venue and just throw an image up on the displays. It's pretty incredible. And not only that, it really saves on, again, we're kind of going back to the same theme, just time. And time costs everybody a lot of money. So the faster we can fix things and the faster we can do things like what Craig requests, he'll just want us to put a company's logo up. And Topgolf has events all the time that just get bought out by just random companies out there, and they a lot of times want to just put logos up on the screen or even presentations up on all of the displays. So they'll do full venue buyouts and they'll want to actually present presentations on all 260 displays whenever they're doing events, and it takes us just a few minutes to make that happen. It's just not that big of a deal when you're using SAVI controls. And we just set all that up for these venues across the country just from Dallas. So there is a lot of power in the remote connectivity that we can do.
So let me bring that back now to the journey conversation, right? When we first met this prospect, the objective was television broadcast for the guest to be able to user select, and a game that they're interfacing with, and have the game independently basically provide them feedback on their, give them bragging rights, let them talk about what happened in their score, right? And they can all compete. So you've got two things going. You don't even have the marketing medium integrated into this objective yet. Now go to where Derek told you we are. We come in with all this enthusiasm many times. And I think this relationship is much more indicative of reality, which is the customer starts out here, we build up trust, and then the customer goes boom. And so where you are today, we call it the tri-pane, which is the vertical screen with 3 different channels on it. Tim, many people mistake that for 3 separate displays. And the reality is it's one large display, and all we've done is cut the canvas up into 3 subsets, like you would on a digital signage platform. You have the menu board, and we've made it 3 different zones, and one's broadcast, one is the game. So we maintain the integrity of the first 2 objectives. Then we brought a whole brand new objective to them when we got them to look at this platform, and that was the marketing objective. The ability to put your message right in the middle pane and talk about things that are relevant to your property, your promotions, all the things you have coming on. To Derek's point, that's where the branding can go without interrupting the game or the broadcast. You could still have your corporate branding right in the middle if you leased out 10 bays or a whole floor. And So we get to that part of the journey, and we've gotten pretty good at telling that story now, because you don't ever throw it all at someone, but the potential of what the platform can do as a starter kit and where it can grow to over time as your needs grow, that's the part that makes it now really compelling. And in the old days, we didn't have a place to go and say, this is it. Now that whole journey is facilitated by this whole relationship so much easier than it used to be, that I mean, I can't say enough about it, you know, and what it's allowed us to do from a demonstration, interactivity, you know, reference capability aspect in the relationship.
And it's also just so cool and so much fun to be able to hit a button in Dallas and to be able to physically control 260 displays in seconds. It is like the coolest feeling. Well, next time you're in Dallas, Tim, I'll let you do it. You'll have a lot of fun.
The fact that you are still giddy about this is also telling. All right.
Can I add one more thing to that really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim? So just to kind of give LG props in this as well, I mean, I think it's kind of been implied through the conversation so far, but really the underlying tech of what's enabling that whole buying journey, as we called it, is the LG WebOS platform. And so what SAVI did is we saw something in WebOS that was really unique that we could sort of build upon and bring something really revolutionary to the market. Because if you look at the makeup of what most LG WebOS partners are, they really are CMS and digital signage companies. But SAVI is not that. We're a control system, and a whole lot more too that I'm sure we'll talk about as this call rolls on here. But we're a control system at the heart of it. But then we have this really cool extended feature that we call SAVI Canvas that's built on LG WebOS platform. And so that really is the tech behind the scenes that made this all possible. And so I'll return the favor to Craig. Can't say enough to him, his team, the WebOS team.
Oh, yeah.
And the partnership there. I know Derek feels really strongly about that as well, that what a great partner they are.
All right, we're going to take some questions here towards the end.
Come on, everybody get in here.
We're social distancing by several hundred miles, 1,000 miles, so I think we're fine. We are going to take some questions here towards the end, so if you click down towards the bottom, there's a Q&A interface. You can type in your question, and we'll kind of answer it towards the end here. But one of the things before we get into the software, still sort of going to the hardware here. One of the aspects of this that we're able to have integrators again add value and simplicity. That is the leveraging the WebOS platform, but also the system on chip, right? The SoC. Byron, I want you to talk for a second about something that you said a couple of weeks ago in the virtual show about reducing points of failure and how this system really does that from end to end.
Sure. So the immediate thing we think of there is what we sort of commonly refer to as one wire that Canvas does. And so it's just one single Ethernet cable to the display. And that's why if you saw that session where we explained this and showed this, we put those 55-inch portrait displays on a pivoting pole so that we can actually physically show that it really is just one network cable plus power, of course. We had a guy one time say, no, it's two cables. There's power and Ethernet. Okay, you got us there. It's two cables, but only one of them is actually doing anything other than powering the display.
We get that all the time.
Yeah.
Someday.
But that's really it. I mean, that's part of the magic behind SAVI Canvas and what LG WebOS is enabling is that we can do, and we always kind of say it in, the control, content delivery, and display management, all three over the one wire.
Craig, I want to bring you in on this because leveraging the WebOS system, WebOS is a two-way communication, right? You're always constantly talking to the display, right? And the display is part of that system that is telling, SAVI, in this case, SAVI, how it's quote unquote feeling, what it's doing, whether or not it's on, whether or not it has an issue. I want you to talk about what you've already talked about, how the remote capability and the remote support from the integrator standpoint and supporting their clients is important. But how important is it for the part of that component system to be able to, send a message down the line and ultimately get back to the integrator saying, hey, something's wrong here. I need help, right? I need to be replaced.
Tim, you got to be careful. When you start talking about hardware products with feelings, it gets a little weird for people. But to that point,
you're the one who coined the term, though, Craig.
I think. I was like, wait, what?
You guys know not to believe Craigisms. Craigisms. No, but
I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic Craigism. But go ahead.
Seriously, yeah, it stems from the, in the digital signage world, we've been dealing with RS-232, which is a rock solid communication protocol. It's primarily one directional. It's primarily it does get feedback, but it only gets feedback when it asks a question. So if then. WebOS is a system on a chip. It's an operating system inside the display. And so when LG designed WebOS, they were able to take a small portion of that processing power that we give to SAVI and our partners, our CMS partners, take a small portion of that to do health diagnostic verification. And there are some rules that then it will answer a question, meaning if my thermal characteristics are getting high. I can't tell you if the vents are covered. I can't maybe tell you what's wrong, but I can tell you, hey, I'm getting hot. And it's not because you asked me, it's because I have a heat sensitivity threshold. If you exceed it, I know to send you feedback. So don't worry, people, the displays aren't watching you. But in all seriousness, they do provide a level of diagnostic support that makes the SAVI control system even more powerful, because now you've got a display that's an active participant in kind of the management of its longevity.
All right,
Does that
Derek,
make sense?
yeah, absolutely. Derek, you were showing some of the capabilities of that kind of dashboard there for a second. Why don't you bring that up?
Oh, you saw it?
And explain. Yes, I saw it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is kind of what Craig was talking about. So it's our SAVI dashboard that just makes it really nice and user-friendly to see. So this is actually the displays that were right behind me. And as you can see, I'm getting all of this data from being pulled right from these displays that are right behind me. So they're just right there. And it just makes it so easy and fast to troubleshoot, especially from afar. And this is actually why we started getting into making our own hardware, because WebOS opened up the world of all of this metadata back and forth. So this is why we're now coming out with amplifiers and DMAs and our backend Stream 1 equipment, because we're taking this concept of all of these features right here and putting it into all of our hardware. So you'll be able to get all of this data all across the board, which makes it just really nice and easy to troubleshoot.
So Derek, I want you to keep that up for a second. And Byron, let's talk about this, because one of the aspects of that dashboard is the fact that what we're seeing is not just the health of the display and some stuff like that, but we're also seeing the screen, right? We're getting feedback and we're seeing the actual content that's on that screen. So now we're going to kind of move into the software and the digital signage part of this. This is an incredibly useful tool, because as an integrator, you're able to see and kind of help your client troubleshoot remotely from wherever you are, helping them understand, and you're able as an integrator to see exactly what's going on the display.
Right, and typically, as the integrator, you're not going to be on site when something goes wrong. So you're relying on some eyes and ears and hands that are at the venue on site when the trouble first occurs and the ticket comes in, the call from the customers, hey, TV number 22 down here, or TV in this room, or TV on that floor, the venue is not working. So you can actually just remote in and immediately see what the status of that device is. And we can even just do a reboot of it. We can update the software, the firmware. We can physically power it down from the SAVI dashboard console there, like you see. So it's an incredible support tool.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So let's kind of talk about the system here and the display part and the display management part. Craig, when we were talking about this and kind of looking at exactly what Topgolf was looking to do, we originally said, they were looking to show channels, right? Show TV channels and in a typical sports environment venue, right? Whether that's a sports bar, it's a shooting range, it's what have you. That was typically done over RF, right? You're talking about coaxial cable. It was modulated signals. If you had a really fancy one, you had a device that you could modulate on any frequency, right? So you take everything in the head in. You have one modulator for every channel. You've got 10 channels, and you shoot them out to do the various displays. In addition to that, they wanted to bring in their own game system, and that was it. So let's take that scenario first before we even get to the advertising part. How does this system here drastically help not only the integrator, but also help the end client realize real savings, but also increases the technology capabilities?
Well, I mean, just from a failure identification standpoint, we've changed the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one is the display's off. And if you're lucky and you have a really astute 17-year-old employee, you get that feedback. If you don't, you wait till maybe the manager happens to walk by that bay or some other technical person that says, hey, that's not right. They maybe take a shot at picking up the remote, trying to turn it back on and off, and actually getting to a level where a call ticket might be issued. Then the call ticket comes in, and it's in the old days, it's like, is the RF cable still connected? Or does it have a media player for the game? Or is the game still connected? Is the wire loose? And all of these elements of break fix identification. And by the way, how do we send a service resource out until we know whether it's the media player, the set-top box, right? The cable demodulator, or the cable between the units? With a WebOS display, that Cat5 is pretty reliable, and telling it's plugged in is pretty safe. All of a sudden, decoders, modulators, displays, wires, it all goes out the window and all belongs to LG. And the team at SAVI knows they can, not only can they run a reset, but they can run it remotely. So there's no waiting for a service ticket, no paying a technician to go on site. They can run a reboot remotely. If that doesn't take care of it, they call us. We know their sophistication is pretty high level. They happen to have a little bit of a carte blanche, approval rating inside of our service department. So when they call in and say, hey, this display's out, we don't ask questions. We know they're accurate. We know their protocols of break fix analysis. We know we're going to find a dead display. So we instantly go into action to take care of that.
Oh yeah. And just like what Craig was talking about, you go from creator to scene creator on how this functions. And actually, you go from seeing the input of creator, and then you go to the same source. So this is the back end. Then you go to the same source in the UI, and then you go to the TV itself. So it's all three levels of how you see from the back end, from the equipment, from the back end equipment, all the way to the front end equipment. You get all three features of it. And that's what we're taking to the next level. And WebOS just completely opened this up to us to really take advantage of. So it's a super cool feature.
Byron, I want to kind of not spend a whole lot of time on that, because we've been talking about the remote capabilities for a long time, but that is something that it depends on who you talk to and obviously where you are physically, geographically in the country. But truck rolls cost anywhere between $120-ish up to $230 per truck roll. Every time you roll a truck, that's how much is coming. That's how much that's costing you, the integrator. And having that system there that Derek just showed us is incredibly valuable, because then you're right, Greg's right. You can kind of walk through that system, that process, and eliminate a lot of issues that remotely that you would have done 10 years ago. You would have rolled a truck and gone through that process. One of the aspects, though, that I want to kind of go back to on the Topgolf is, even if you figure out that the display is the issue, right? And at that point, the integrator has gone through the systems and said, okay, you know what, it's the display. I want you to talk to folks for a second about the ease of use and the ease of that that replacement scenario, because something that you guys have in the back end allows Topgolf and possibly other clients as well the ability to, even before an integrator could have somebody on the road, they could have a display up and running again because of the back end systems that you have that allows them to take one down, put one up, and then it kind of repopulates into the system.
Right. So that starts with, you assess that we need to replace the display, and we confirm that. And then end user customer has spares on site. And then the key thing actually of what you're referring to is what we call linking and unlinking of displays within SAVI. And it's such a fast process that it takes you significantly longer to physically remove the old display, put it aside, unbox the new one, and install it, versus the software side of it. As soon as you power it up and plug in that Ethernet cable, it recognizes on the SAVI Canvas network, and then you just link it back up and add it back into the system, and you're back up and running just in a matter of minutes for the whole process. And it's virtually non-existent what you do, other than a couple of taps on an iPad or a laptop, what have you, even your phone if you prefer, to just add that new display back in the same spot where the old one came from.
Yeah. Derek, one of the things that folks, when we talk about control systems and backends, they're, especially if they're an integrator that's been around for a while, they've had their hands on several different types of control systems. And what Byron just explained was fantastic and really great. The question then becomes, okay, from a programming standpoint, what do I have to know, right? Or what does my programmer have to know? So what does the programmer have to know for a SAVI system to make what Byron just explained happen?
Oh man, this is awesome that you just brought this up, because we're focusing a lot on the programmer really being efficient with the back end to all the way to the front end, kind of like what this whole theme has been going round and round. So the programmer doesn't have to know too much. And that's actually a good thing, because you can really spread training on how to get all of this up in your whole company. Most companies have, a lot of employees and then at the end of it, you have like 2 or 3 people that really know how to program a system. You have a bunch of technicians and then 2 or 3 people that know how to program. So you're draining those 3 people by sending them all over the place. And it's like they get exhausted, overwhelmed. Then they try and train the people underneath them. It just takes time. Usually for a real system, it takes about 1 year to 2 years to train on other platforms out there. So what we've enabled is a lot of plug and play features. So, I mean, to show people from what Byron just described, it takes minutes to show them how to do it, because it's just scanning the network, pushing a few buttons, and I can show you if you want to see it. It's just, it's truly, is this inverted? What do you guys see? Inverted or?
I see inverted.
Yes.
Okay. So does it look proper to you guys?
We're waiting.
Looks good. I see creator with LG displays.
Does that look better? Is that right?
Looks like, it's like
okay.
road treat.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, right here, you just scan your network. I mean, I've already discovered here, but here's all my LG displays. I just scan it. I hit install the SAVI app, and it just deploys the app to our system. And then you just link it right here, like what Byron was talking about. So there's just not many things that you have to do. It's just super easy to just link and unlink a display. It's just a few clicks of a button. So this turns,
I was just going to say real quick, just to draw a contrast, when you compare that to sort of the known way that sort of thing has been done in the commercial space for decades now, it's a little bit hard to put into words how game-changing that is, because it's really no exaggeration that the programming aspect of moves, adds, and changes of simple things like swapping a TV, etc., can be an hour, 2 hours plus for a simple task. Whereas with us, it's just a few taps.
Yep.
I'm going to give you just one anecdote in that whole conversation. every supplier out there requires a serial number. And sometimes waiting for it to come off the shelf before they'll approve the return, you didn't see all the detail, but the serial number's right there in Savvy. So when that goes down, Derek's able to go, yep, we got model 43 SM5KE, serial number, bum, 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 and here's where it's at. Can we get a new one? And it's done.
Yep. And we did that because even on the Topgolf side, it was really hard to just train an entire organization on a simple service call. So with these features, you can really just spread the love to as many people as you want because it's just a few clicks of a button. So you take, those 3 programmers that really knew how to do this, and now you can just completely deploy it to your entire staff on how to do it, which it just, again, same thing, saves time, money, efficiency, the whole thing. So we're really trying to just spread the love to a lot more people out there to be able to program and deploy these systems.
And just strip away that complexity that's just been described, that's the contrast of other ways that you might do that versus how you would do it with Savvy.
So we are going to take some of the questions here in a second. But Byron, I want to tap into one thing real quick, and then Craig, want to talk about something else here. I used to program years ago, and one of the aspects of a system like Savvy is, you guys are making your own modules, your own, the ability to connect and talk to other systems, right? One of the aspects of being a programmer and somebody who puts together control systems is you guys are, if you're the ones who are making the modules, you're the ones who's making the magic happen in the back end. As the folks on site or the integrator on site, what does that process look like if I've got a brand new Blu-ray player, right? Or something like that. What does that process look like, and how long does that typically take for us to get that module back, that connectivity back?
Right, sure. So broad brush, I'd say we're going to have just out of the box drivers for the vast majority of devices out there. But where we run into devices that we don't have drivers, say like an audio DSP of some sort in the commercial space, that's a common thing that you see wide variance of integrators really preferring one brand versus the next. And this is what my staff is trained on, so this is what we stick with. And if we just didn't happen to have that particular brand or series of product driver already, either A, we have a virtual environment where we can develop it, and we don't actually need the gear here other than to fully, thoroughly test it potentially. But then B, we might just simply ask the dealer, hey, ship us the piece of gear, give us a week or 2 with it. We'll write the driver for you. We'll ship it back and you're good to go.
All right.
And no charge, of course, on that.
Oh yeah.
Because we're adding to the greater good of the platform by bringing inclusiveness of more pro audio brands. There could be a case where there might be some really random one-off thing that's not, a widely used product. We've had a few oddball requests, but for the most part, 99% of it is a very bona fide, commercial industry product that we have no issues writing a drive for any dealer, for any project.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, one of the things that I want to bring in here as we kind of wrap up here, and that's something that I learned years ago as a tech manager, and that's the total cost of ownership of a system, right? So yeah, you can run to a box store and get a display for $100 right now. But the question is, should you, right? Because eventually that's going to, I'm going to spend more on training, I'm going to spend more on infrastructure, or I'm going to replace the sucker in 6 months as opposed to 2 or 3 years. So with a system like this, from Savvy all the way through, to the LG display, what is a typical cost of ownership for an install, and how do you explain that to potential clients?
Tim, that's a great topic, because it seems that the numbers move around dramatically when we try to present them, which we think are factual. And, the people who really want to go for lowest common denominator find a way to get to the lowest common denominator. And we usually put them in the marination pool, because when we hear all that, we're pretty certain they're going to experience maybe not a catastrophic failure, but a unacceptable failure. So we have to put them on the back burner and let them go 6 months, a year, and revisit them. But then I think the good news is in this industry, enough of doing it on the cheap has been attempted and failed multiple times now to more and more people. So we receive a lot less pushback than we used to. So it really does come down to, let's talk about the TCO. Let's talk about how valuable your failure percentage is. And let's talk about what costs you incur, because we can help you with that too. We can structure programs where we spread the cost over everything you buy with a really advanced service option, or in the case of what we're doing in the Topgolf topology, you know, we're basically pricing in an extra on-site unit, so we don't need to put heroic replacement timeframes around that replacement unit, which also incur risk, right? When you start to put bigger screens on fast trucks with common carriers, there's a different set of problems. So we try to offer alternative perspectives on it. We don't have one that we think is best, because to be honest with you, I think we deal with a myriad of them at the end of the day. But I mean, probably the biggest challenge, we started the conversation with that, and it's kind of like Topgolf, is the sports bar entertainment facade, you know, atmosphere. There's still a very frugal mindset, and it really seems to have, it exponentially changes. That mindset changes when the quantity of displays becomes significant. I'll tell you, significant, 10 isn't significant, but 25 plus in a sports bar venue starts to get a little unmanageable. That is a mission critical element of their experience, because they want to keep you there. They want to keep you entertained. So if they have a robust backbone and they have multiple channel offerings, that becomes a place where we can go in and start to have this kind of conversation. I think the differences become more accepted. Best example I can give you, one of my daughters plays competitive soccer. We went out after a big victory, and the Atlanta United, our local team, was playing that afternoon, and had all the moms and dads and all the kids spending a lot of money on pizza and, you know, whatnot. And we just asked them to change 2 displays, and it took all the staff went through all the staff up to the manager, because they had a control system. But to Derek's point, it wasn't easy, and no one knew how to use it except the manager. And it took about 15 minutes to get a channel change. And it was like, you know, the frustration it created, the lost revenue. I mean, it was a great case study for us, because it helped me provide more insights into how we can make that better. A couple of things they didn't talk about are the ability, even for Savvy, to do upfront programming of, and I don't mean code programming, I mean channel programming. What's going to be on Saturday afternoon, so the management of the bar isn't worried about getting the right game on. Savvy can actually allow them to align with the channel guide, and the channel guide actually pulls data down electronically by your carrier, and will allow you to go, oh, the Braves game, 2 o'clock, we want this block of displays to hit the Braves game at 2. 4 o'clock, basketball, want the basketball game on at 4 o'clock. It's another great feature. So we try to bring that whole story, the TCO and the upfront cost, but also the human aggravation factor cost reductions and the experiential improvement costs. We try to bring that whole conversation. And I think we're getting more and more effective at telling that story over again, but it doesn't have a fixed formula dollar amount that allows me to go A plus B, you win.
Yeah, and you're gonna spend the money one day, because we've been guilty of this too a long time ago, but you end up buying consumer displays and putting them commercial, and they in commercial they run 18 to 24 hours a day, and consumer displays just aren't built for that. So you're either going to put a little bit more into the display up front, or in about a year, it's usually about a year on the money, those consumer displays, the power supplies are just going to go out. So then you're going to have to re-buy a display. So it's either just putting a little bit more up front versus just completely re-buying a whole other display afterwards. And then whenever you re-buy that display, consumers change every year. So the physical casing changes. So when that TV goes out, because it's inevitable, they're not built for that, you are replacing it, and it's going to be in line with TVs that don't match. So it's just, it kind of depends on what, if you want to invest on longevity of your project, either now or you're going to have to spend the same funds later on.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
do you consider the downtime a lost revenue opportunity? Do you consider the fact that you are pulling a person off another job, an employee to do the repair replacement time frame, even if it's free to you because it's a staff employee, there's an opportunity cost lost there, right? They're consuming wage time, which some people won't recognize. And we're like, okay, we understand, but it really is a cost to you. On top of that low cost display, now you're replacing it at another low cost, but you're incurring the labor and the downtime. And like I said, some people will acknowledge that and go, okay, that's legit. And other people go, oh, that doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me. And we're like, okay, well, then you are where you are.
I was just going to add one other thing to that too, is for those who may not keep tabs on, all the product that LG releases and what the lineup looks like, they have a really nice sort of tiered, that may not be how LG thinks of it, but, I think of it as you have different series, different tiers of product. You have some that are more high end for different applications, video walls, ultra thin bezel, but then you have these other series groups of product where the delta is just not much at all to get into a truly commercial display with WebOS for commercial environments that's SAVI Canvas compatible. So the delta is just not there anymore. Maybe several years ago, there was more of a difference in price. And I know we don't like to talk too much specific on price, but that's just kudos to LG that they've listened to the market and tuned into the fact that if they bring out the right set of product, that it opens the gates to more people buying into commercial displays.
Yeah. Byron, I want to bring one last thing up here actually to real quickly, and that is the third part of that journey with Top Golf that you guys also were able to kind of add to it and then make available to the rest of your dealers, and that is the digital signage part, right? So Craig kind of went through and said, here it's broken up into threes. Talk for a second about the advantage of incorporating the broadcast part, right? The display part where you're able to show different stations and different sports or whatever the content is, but also adding that potential revenue generator for the clients.
Sure. So oftentimes in the AV industry, we think of video distribution and digital signage and CMS in sort of separate silos. Mm-hmm. But what SAVI Canvas does is it brings those together and it gives you this this path to consolidate all of that. So however sophisticated or maybe not so sophisticated your digital signage needs are as the end customer, SAVI can accommodate that. So if you say, hey, I just need basic images, a few motion graphics, some different things that we need to pop up on displays here or there to enhance the experience for the guests, right? SAVI can bring that just out of the box with SAVI and the Canvas system. But if you say, hey, maybe I need to be a little more sophisticated and I need to buy into whether it's cloud-based or premise-based digital signage systems and CMS systems, you can do that as the customer. And then SAVI's just aggregating that as one of many content types that we're giving you the pathway to deliver those different types of content to the screen. Again, with just the one wire with no box behind the TV, that we always talk about. So you say, well, I have my MPEG-4 stream on the network for my DirecTV, dish, cable, whatever it might be. I have some cloud-based signage. I have some signage players in the building somewhere. And then I have other types of content that's on the network that I need to grab and display on my displays. And so we're taking advantage of the screens throughout the project for more than just plain old TV watching. We're delivering all these different content types for that consolidated experience. So we're leveraging, if I'm the customer, I'm leveraging my investment in those screens, in those commercial displays to work for me and do a lot more. Maybe I can bring on marketing or advertising sponsorships with some of my partners to even generate revenue. So there's a lot there that, if we unpacked that, it's a long discussion, but that's the quick overview.
Well, it also reduces even more the total cost of ownership, right? Because you're eliminating those back behind the display players. You're able to consolidate all of this different content and then package it together in whatever way that the client really wants to do, including, revenue possibilities.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Derek, one thing about control systems, and has been a thorny subject of the last, let's say, 20 years ish.
Nervous.
And that is who owns the code.
Yeah.
Right. When it comes to this system and it comes to Savvy, is it something where, yes, you're working with your clients and you're providing a service, but that's theirs, right? Their code is their own.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's once you just buy a Savvy system, it's all yours. Now there's the backend code that we really don't open up except for some,
I'm
some
not
API
talking about
features.
your software. I'm not talking about yours. No.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on, where are we going with this?
No.
No, I know. But no, yeah, of course, the client and the dealer, they own everything. So we're really not subscription based except for some service things here and there. But you buy the Savvy system and you get all the feature sets that come along with it, which makes it really nice.
Yeah, and just to add to that, one of the things that Savvy's doing that it shakes things up a bit out there potentially in the market is that there's been this sort of methodology out there that there's a programmer that designs, programs, and deploys that code for that project. And then there's this cloud or question of, well, who owns that code, so that when my system, maybe I want a different dealer to service it. Maybe I want some moves as changes done to the system. What does that process look like? Is it complicated? Is it messy? Can I even do it? Can I pull down the code from the local processor? Can I not? And so we've sort of wiped that slate clean as well. And just to kind of make sure everyone understands, we're not saying that lessens the value of the dealer in the equation. We're just saying it's a different way to do it. We're sold only through dealers. We are ultra dealer friendly, huge proponents of that kind of a channel sale and a dealer integrator sale, but it's just a different way to approach how we program, how we configure, and that whole sequence.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning of Creator. So, I mean, in real life instances, you'll have a developer or programmer program your system, and then a year later, someone goes in to service it, and they're like, "Man, what's the password to this? Like, where's this rack at? Where's this feature at?" There's all these questions that rise up, and Creator, this is just the beginning, because we're going to be putting everything in it as far as documentation. We're combining, there's remote reboot power supplies out there that we deploy a lot of, but it's a different URL web page that you have to log into. It's a username, password somebody has to set up. And then there's network switches that have a different URL, username, password you have set up. And then there's the control platform, same thing. So you have all these different components out there that have all these different username and passwords. And so sometimes when you see to get in for a quick service call, it takes forever because you're hunting down the developer that put it together in the first place. So with Creator, we're going to be combining all of those things into our system. And we're going to have a support feature set in there that you'll have a dashboard, not just for your LG amp, but it'll be for your LG, your amplifiers, your Stream Ones, your network switches, your remote reboot power supplies. So you'll have one place to just go and access all of it to quickly get in and out. So that way,
can see if you wind Derek up, start talking about Savvy Creator, he gets really excited.
I tell you, this is like just the beginning. I can't wait to show everybody like what we're about 15% of the cool features that we're going to deploy. And we're just not even close to what everybody has seen yet for what is going to help save so many people on service calls and just to have fun with the system.
And see that right there. I was introduced to you guys in July, and at first I'm like, this is cool. And again, former programmer here, and the more that I find out about it, the more excited I get. And every time I talk to Derek, it's exciting. But that right there, right, the ability to increase the productivity and also, quite frankly, increase the profitability of your dealers is an incredibly powerful platform. So that's one of the things that it's going to be really, really fun to watch over the next couple of years. Craig, as we wrap up here, walk me through and you know, if somebody's interested in connecting with LG, regardless of where they are geographically, how do they do that?
I mean, the first place we tell them to go is right through the SAVI team. But if they don't, they can actually go to LG.com and they can actually go into any one of our products and request a quote. That's probably the simplest way. That you know, the two avenues. Basically, there are 15 of me across the country, and we are here to talk to resellers and dealers all day long. And if they'd like us to assist on a call with an end user, that's what we're here for. And we've got over 50 top call locations in the United States that we can run these demos at. So it's really easy. We like to be really active. We like to be really supportive. And you can ask these guys. I bug them at least once a week for, you know, what else we're doing and where else we can go. And my last note is all the good things we talked about that we were allowed to talk about, we have, but we're not done yet.
Not even close.
There are still some really cool ideas we have brainstormed and noodled, and all we're trying to do is get our customers. You know, we talked about the evolution of the sale, the evolution of the relationship, and we're at a place where Topgolf can wrap their head around some of the things we're throwing at them now, which are even cooler and more engaging ways. And we understand their objective is entertainment value. How do I make this experience fun, engaging, relevant to the people in those bays, my guests? And that's the aspect that we approach this, not from a technology aspect, but from a entertainment engagement aspect. And we are not finished.
All right. Byron, walk me through if I'm just learning about Savvy, how do I become a dealer and what does that process look like?
Of course, so you would go to hellosavvy.com, and if you scroll down just a bit, there's a simple 5-field form where you say, I'm interested in becoming a dealer. You fill that out, submit it to us. That brings you into our system. You'll get a response very promptly, and then we can set up one-on-one sessions with potential dealers to do some quick live demos, take you through a little bit of a presentation about who we are, what we're all about. A lot of the same kind of information that you've heard today, but we kind of expand upon that and make sure everyone understands the tech behind the scenes of what we're doing with the current product that's already shipping, as well as new product that's shipping later this year. So, pardon me. And then from there, we would just make sure that that potential dealer is a good fit, and we would have them sign up dealer agreement and set them up on our backend systems, and they're off to the races. We ask them to do a 2-day tech training for 2 of their technicians typically, and those start in October.
Okay, very good. Remote, in person?
Oh,
both?
Good point. It's a virtual Savvy dealer training student experience. So we actually have a classroom set up here at our corporate offices in Dallas, and we have 16 stations there, and each virtual student has their own setup of gear that they're using to remotely program throughout the course of the 2-day training.
All right, very good. And Derek, at what point do we get to talk to you once we become a dealer?
Oh man, if you guys want to talk to me from the beginning, I will talk anybody's ear off about technology.
All right, that'll work.
Yeah, we've got some really cool virtual demos in like our, go watch our Savvy overview. But even with the one-on-one demos, we try to bring that same feel to everybody. So you get to see everything live in action with just a lot of cool stuff.
All right,
and like Derek mentioned, out on YouTube on our channel, you can, if you just search savvy.connect, you'll find all the sessions from that launch event from a couple weeks ago there for viewing.
Yeah, it's some really good stuff. Again, you get to see Derek running around and showing stuff. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for me. I'm Tim Albright. You don't want to connect with me. I'll just talk. I'm like Derek. I'll talk technology anytime. So, thank you guys so much. We'll take some of the questions that we've had and answer those kind of offline. And we appreciate your time.
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.